Welcome back to Super Speed Super Metroid. I'm Brick Road, and the plan now is to head back up through Brinstar, pass through a section of Criteria, and over to the wrecked ship. The glitch in this plan is that I'm missing 3 key items I'm supposed to have picked up in Norfair, the ice beam, the power bombs, and the grappling beam. There are power bombs conveniently located on our route upward, but lack of the other 2 items means I'm going to have to use some creative tricks to get ahead. Also on this ascent, I'm supposed to take a quick detour to pick up the X-ray scope. Without the ice or grappling beams though, I'm not well enough equipped to actually get it, and since I already know where everything is, it's not like it would be doing me a lot of good anyway. So the reason you quote-unquote need the ice beam is to freeze the critters in Brinstar's vertical shaft and use them as stepping stones to climb upward. With the high jump boots though, it's easier and faster to just use a well-placed wall jump instead. This saves me both from having to take the trip in to get the ice beam in the first place, and from having to either unequip it or take an extra shot to kill every enemy in the game. The second half of the Brinstar shaft takes some practice. First you have to clear out the rippers using super missiles, and I'd better not miss because I've only got a max of 5. Next you have to wall jump up and shoot out the shaft ceiling. Then you have to wall jump up again through the hole you made before the ceiling reforms. You can pull this off on your first pass through to Kraid, and your potential reward is 2 powerbomb pickups. Without the grappling beam or speed booster though, you can't do much else up in this area, and there's nowhere down below you really need the power bombs. So it's not beneficial to do this part out of sequence. Still, it's one of the first sequence breaks I pulled off, and it's one of the first times I felt like a bona fide Metroid badass. The next awesome thing you're going to see me do is a couple of really tricky shine sparks. The first is a mid-air horizontal shine spark to get me over a moat without using the grappling beam. The second is another mid-air shine spark that needs to be short charged. A shine spark is a super jump Samus performs by running at full speed and then ducking. This will put her in a temporary charge stance. Doing a straight jump while charged causes her to rocket upward. Doing a spin jump, however, lets her jump around without using up the charge. While spinning in mid-air, you can tap the up button to break your spin, and then while falling you tap forward and then jump to rocket horizontally. So, charge, spin jump, then roll your finger from up to forward on the D-pad, then jump. This all has to be done before Samus's charge wears off. If you don't have enough space to build up full speed, you'll need to do a short charge. This is easy. Instead of holding down the run button when you start moving, take a step or 2 and then hold run. Samus will achieve full speed booster velocity in a shorter amount of space. If you ever want to play Super Metroid and skip the grappling beam, you'll have to practice this move right here. Pretty cool, right? This missile tank is probably the most dramatic pickup in the whole game. Samus's energy drains while shine sparking, so using 2 of them to get to the front door of the wrecked ship means you're probably going into the boss at a disadvantage. You can forego this second, longer shine spark by unequipping your high jump boots and carefully jumping across the platforms above the lake. But to skip the first one, you have to learn how to bomb jump horizontally, which requires pixel-perfect precision and timing. Personally, I don't have it in me. The wrecked ship is a tiny area that's not much except a boss fight and a couple items. This place is empty and foreboding when you first arrive. You can't do much but take the path straight to the boss. I actually have more energy now for some reason than I typically do at this point. It's not uncommon for me to show up at Phantoon with under 50 energy. If I'm going to die somewhere in my run, this is usually the spot it happens. The saving grace of the Phantoon fight is you can shoot as blue fireballs for pickups. If you're lucky, you can potentially win back more energy than you're losing. Phantoon has 3 attack patterns: fly around invisibly dropping fireballs, solidifying and dropping a stream of fireballs from the ceiling, or throwing multiple fireball waves at you. He unfortunately can only be damaged during his second attack when he's solid. Dodging the fireball waves is simple, just charge your gun and then spin jump through them. If that's too much to ask, you can avoid the wave attack entirely by simply not using super missiles on Phantoon. This does tend to drag the fight out though, since regular missiles don't pack the same punch. Phantoon stays solid long enough for you to pump a couple missiles into him, but hitting him with a super causes him to immediately go into his wave attack. The best way to deal the most damage in the shortest amount of time then is to let him solidify, then quickly hit him with 2 missiles and a super in quick succession. Do it right and you only have to go through his full attack pattern a couple of times. Well, I've managed to share the full extent of my wisdom on the Phantoon fight without even coming close to killing him. I think boss fights are probably my weakest area in Super Metroid. I really could be killing them all much faster. I always run myself out of supers while fighting Phantoon and end up having to finish him off with missiles or charged shots. The fact that I just wasted a super right there when I didn't have a clear shot probably doesn't help matters. Anyway, that's the difference between someone who's awesome at the game, like me, and the people who are out there shattering records. A top-tier player would have had Phantoon dead within 3 rounds at most. Throughout the whole second half of this fight, I've had Phantoon within 1 super missile of death, so if he would just frickin' drop one, I could end this quickly. Instead, you all are forced to watch this agonizing fight. Might be a good time to go make a sandwich or catch a nap, file your taxes, tell your wife you love her, catch some Pokemon, you know, something like that. Finally, he's dead. Good, now we can move on. So, Phantoon is some kind of energy ghost whose mere existence was sapping the power from the wrecked ship. With him dead, all of the stuff that was previously turned off springs to life. Light systems, doors, enemies, bipedal robots, electrical conduits, even the spikes in this level can't hurt you until you've killed Phantoon. First off, this means I can now collect a couple of super missile packs, so I can finally carry more than 5. I won't have to budget them so carefully in future boss fights, thank God. You can't get either of these packs until the wrecked ship has power, though. There are a couple packs elsewhere in the world I could retrieve that require power bombs, but only with a huge amount of backtracking. No matter how you slice it, no optimized path through Super Metroid will put you at Phantoon's door with more than 5 supers, and since you need 2 to get to his room in the wrecked ship, even showing up with 5 is probably not in the cards. Even in a regular run of the game, supers are a rare commodity until after Phantoon. Normal players won't get the pack that I got that requires the Mach Ball, but they'd have gotten the pack guarded by Spore Spawn, which I skipped. There aren't any in the rest of Brinstar though, and not a single pack in Upper Norfair at all. That means most fights with Crocomire go down with only 5 supers as well. I think this is very much by design. The bosses up to this point, including Spore Spawn and Crocomire, are all very much pushovers if you have a large amount of super missiles. The bosses in the second half of the game are a great deal hardier. The game knows this, so it gives you a huge amount of firepower just after the last easy boss is killed. Another thing you might notice is that up until now the game has been pretty much linear. Yeah, I've pulled off some crazy stunts and skipped a few bosses, but for the most part the Torizo Kraid Norfair Phantoon sequence is pretty solid. There's not much you can do to deviate from the path to Kraid, and you kinda need to kill Kraid before you can explore Norfair. When you emerge from Norfair, the first thing you find is a shaft that was impassable before, but now trivial to scale thanks to the ice beam, and you find yourself outside of the wrecked ship. After the wrecked ship, though, practically the whole world opens up. You can leave out the eastern exit of the wrecked ship, which takes you down to Meridia. You can leave out the western exit and pick up the wealth of goodies you previously had to leave behind in Criteria and Brinstar. Until now, the game has been pretty resistant to backtracking, but with all these new toys and usually the X-ray scope to go along with them, the player is now in a prime position to do some hardcore exploring in pretty much any direction he cares to go. There's a spike-filled room up ahead that requires a certain amount of health to get through if you don't have the grappling beam, which is a good occasion to drain out my reserve tanks. I've actually died in this room almost as often as I've died on Phantoon, and for the same reason. If you go through the door without enough energy to survive a few spike hits, you're just plain stuck. I suppose you could horizontal bomb jump across if you were some kind of insane masochist. There is a glitch that lets you into this area through the gray door on the outside, but it requires the grappling beam, so it's not exactly a time saver. This is my least favorite part of the game. Waiting for this Chozo statue to very slowly walk across the pit of spikes and down into the secret area below. Let me go, you bastard. There we go. The next item is a third reserve tank, and is one that I typically skip in a speedrun. But getting it is kind of fun, and having the extra 100 energy could prove critical against Ridley later on. In fact, pretty much the entire next video is going to be me going places and getting items I ignore if I'm trying to keep my time down. The other benefit here is that if I decide to turn this particular save into a 100% run at any time, I won't have to ride the Chozo Slowpoke Express a second time. The whole point of the wrecked ship is, well, first of all, you can't open the path to the endgame without killing all 4 of the major bosses, but more importantly because this is where you get the gravity suit. Equipping this item not only reduces the damage Samus takes from most attacks, but also equalizes her mobility while underwater, meaning she can now freely explore the region of Meridia. It also turns her armor a lovely shade of purple, which perfectly matches her wave spacer beam shots. Accessorizing is an important part of any bounty hunter's agenda. In a speedrun, I would now go back down through the floor of the Key Hunter room, down the orange Brinstar shaft, and enter Meridia. In this run, however, I'm going to take a break and put all these awesome items to work for me to help round up my collection of energy tanks and super missiles for the boss fights to come. First, I'll take advantage of Samus's gunship to fill all my commodities back up to their maximums. No awesome boss fights or tricky sequence breaks next video, guys, but don't worry, I'll still make it worth watching. Don't I always? See you back here.